हे सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणे प्रचारणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चादेशतारणे मुखं करोति वाचालं भंगं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we'll resume our discussion on the third canto, chapter 7. So quick recap that the chapter, which is inquiries from Vidur to Maitreya Rishi, begins with Vidur asking three questions of Maitreya relating to Krishna's interaction with the material world. So he asks first, that does Krishna become material? Because he's so intimately connected with the whole material process of creation, maintenance, destruction, the modes of material nature. And Maitreya gives an answer that Srila Prabhupada has almost made it a mantra for us, so it's easy for us to understand that yes, Krishna does very intimately associate with Maya, but she's always under his control. So she's always subservient to Krishna. So Maya is controlled by Krishna, but Krishna is never controlled by Maya. Then the second question was that how does the pure Jiva get covered by Nishyans? And Maitreya answers, because of avidya, because of ignorance, the Jiva allows Maya to cover him. And earlier on we had read a further extension of this when we were doing the Chatushloki, when the point is made that even this statement needs to be qualified. So we often say that the Jiva is Kshara, very small, so it gets overwhelmed by Maya. But actually even that is not true. That is more like describing the effect. Maya can never overcome the Jiva, because Jiva is superior to Maya. So whether small or big, not possible. But the reason it happens is because of Krishna. So Krishna is deploying one of his energy to cover another of his energy. And because Krishna can do anything, he actually deploys an inferior energy to cover his superior energy. And there we also understood that this is actually because of the desire of the Jiva. So the chain of events is that the Jiva desires, Krishna responds to the desire of the Jiva. By the desire of Krishna, Maya overpowers the Jiva, but then also does not change the Swarup of the Jiva. So the knowledge that is there. Maya does not convert that knowledge or drive it away. All it does is that it covers it. And the example that was used was of a person who is sleeping. That under the influence of the sleep, the person might think that his hair is cut off, but his head was never cut off. And when he wakes up, he does not grow a new head. His head was always there. So the change between nations and knowledge is really not knowledge. It is the awareness of the presence of knowledge. And then the third question was about the fact that is Krishna limited? That if he lives in the hearts of the jiva, then why do they still experience misfortune? And in the answer to this question, Maitreya answers indirectly, saying that Krishna is always offering jiva at all points of time an opportunity to get out through the process of bhakti. All that the jiva needs to do is to take to the process. So Krishna is not limited, he is unlimited. Because even when the jiva is in that conditioned state, he is still reaching out to the jiva and offering him an opportunity to change his situation. If Krishna was limited, then he would not be able to offer this opportunity. The limitation is on the part of the desire of the jiva to change. So, so Maitreya has now heard all these questions. I'm sorry, Vidur has now heard all these questions, and we will now see him respond. So the last verse that we did in our previous discussion was Vidur saying that my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. So he's acknowledging that he has been able to accept and appreciate the answers of Maitreya. How much he is able to internalize, that he will reveal. But at least he is saying that he has understood and accepted. Okay, so we will start from verse 16. Sadvaidvayartham vidvan na atma mayayanam hare abhate apartam nirmulam vishwamulan nayadbahi. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. So Maitreya begins by saying sadhu eta, that your explanations are pious, are accurate. In this context, it is both. It's that they are pious and they are accurate, befitting one who is a vidwan, who is glorifying Maitreya as vidwan. And he now will reflect what he has understood as a way of affirmation. That let me echo back what I have understood, so that you can confirm that I have understood. So he says that what I have understood you telling me is that the bondage of the jiva by ignorance and the resulting misfortune, atma maya, is caused by maya. So the words apartham, which he says, which means no meaning, and nirmulam, no basis. Vidur says over here that disturbances to the conditioned souls have no other basis, that is nirmulam, than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. So he uses two phrases, aparatham, that they have no meaning, and nirmulam, that they have no basis. So these two terms can be applied to the jiva, can be applied to Maya, and can also be applied to Krishna. So when applied to jiva, then Atma Mayayanam, that it results in the bewilderment of the bewilderment of the jiva, the Atma Mayayanam, is nirmulam and aparatham. That it has really no meaning and no basis. So what does it mean? That only the jiva is responsible for it. It is not imposed by the Lord or by Maya. If it was imposed by the Lord, there would be some meaning to it. If it was imposed by Maya, there would be some basis to it. But it is only because of the desire of the jiva. Everything else is following through that. When applied to Maya, no meaning and no basis, it means that there is no cause of the existence of the material world outside of Maya. The whole material universe exists solely on Yadbahi, on Maya. So it describes the nature of the universe, and then Maya has no meaning and no basis outside the Lord. So thus this Maya exists solely on Lord. The material universe exists solely on Maya, and we know that because we went through the process of understanding how the material universe is created. And we also know from the Chatushloki that Maya exists solely on the Lord. So Vidura is reflecting this understanding. And when applied to Krishna, then the understanding is that though the Lord is without gunas, he appears to possess these gunas of doership, abhati, for the creation of the material universe through possessing Maya. However, he is aparatham. So aparatham in this means that he is without a goal, which means that he already has everything. And his nirmulam means without basis, because he is the basis of everything. So which means that the existence of the Lord does not depend upon him being the creator of the universe, does not depend upon Maya as the go-between between the Lord and the conditioned jiva. His performing actions does not depend on him having gunas. He is aparatham nirmulam. So Vidur, in the answer, in this reflection, he is answering or confirming the answers that Maitreya had given about, does the Lord become material? Why does the jiva get conditioned? So when applied to jiva, then it answers, why does the jiva get conditioned? Because of the desires of the jiva only. That was the answer that Maitreya gave. Does Krishna become material when he is associating with matter so closely? No, because Maya is existing solely on the on the Lord, completely dependent on him. Then does the Lord have desires? Because he creates and he destroys. No. He is nirmulam and aparatham. Right? His goal, all his goals are already achieved. And he is not dependent on anything. Okay, next verse 17. Yascha mudatamo loke yascha bude param gataha tavubhav sukham medite klishyati anarrito janaha. Both the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoys happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs. So Vidur makes an interesting point over here, and he says that those who are not concerned about spiritual advancements, they have nothing to worry about. So they're basically living like animals. So you won't see animals worrying about what will happen to my next life. Am I making advancements? And then at the other end of the spectrum is the Buddha Paramgata. So there is a Murtama, person who is foolish in the mode of ignorance, and there is the Buddha Paramgata, the Paramhamsas. They don't have to worry because Edete Sukham, because they're already fixed in transcendental happiness. Now, of course, they're not the same. Even though symptomatically both of them do not worry, but causally they are different. The first one does not worry about it because they don't know. The second one does not worry about it because they already know. Now, between them, there is a huge spectrum of people that Vidur is talking about, and he includes himself and people like him. And these are the people who are questioning the cause of suffering and looking for real happiness. So klishyanti, klishas, they're suffering from material pangs. Why? Because they're aware of the suffering. The only reason you can suffer is when you consider it as suffering. I remember when I went back to, after living in the US for a while, when I went back to US, then many things that I was not aware of, I started noticing. The honking on the streets, and just the people cutting you off, etc. And then I had lived so many years in India, and I was not aware of it because that's just how people were. But then you became aware of something else. So this is the situation of these people. That the reason they see it as suffering because they're aware of real happiness. Either they've experienced it in bits and pieces, or they have seen people experience it, or they've read about it. So, so these are the people that my Vidur is representing. And these are the people who will benefit, people like us, who will benefit from the conversation. So Vidur is setting the basis for more questions. So he has asked questions, he has been answered, and now he's setting up for more questions, saying that there is a huge group of people who are in this limbo state. Prabhupada says that in the Vedanta Sutra, the basis is Atato Brahma Jigyasa, that now one should inquire about Brahma. And this is for those who are between the Paramhamsas and the fools and the Mudas. The Paramahamsas, of course, have asked this question, but they've got the answer to it. And the fools, they're not aware of the need to ask these questions. But everybody else, Prabhupada says, should ask this question and pursue the answer for that. Verse 18. Artha bhavam vinishchitya pratitasha pinatmanaha tam chapi vyushma charana sevayaham paranude. But my dear sir, I'm obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance. Although it appears real, I'm confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. So Vidur himself had initially started with the false idea that the jiva is changed because of material conditioning. So in the verse 5, he had asked that how does the pure jiva get covered by Nishayans? Now he says that thanks to the explanation by Maitreya, he understands that for the soul, there is no actual misfortune. He says, Artha Abhavam, that the swarup of the soul never changes. But then he says, Na pratitasya api. That, so now he's frankly confessing that even though I accept your logic, I don't experience it. So in the mood of a pure disciple, he is talking about his situation frankly. That I understand what you are saying. So the guru tells the disciple, you're not the body, you're a soul. And the student says, I accept it. But then he turns around and then he still continues to act on the platform of the body. So it's not that the disciple is being unscrupulous or deceitful, but there is always a gap between understanding something and being on the platform of realizing it. So Vidur is talking about that gap. But he also acknowledges the fact that Maitreya Rishi has given him a process to bridge that gap. But he modifies it a little. So what was the process that Maitreya gave him? He gave him the process of bhakti. So he said, you do sadhana vaidhi bhakti, and then after your nivritta of anarthas, you will go to bhava bhakti. But he modifies it and he says that I'm confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. So what he is saying is that real bhakti that is within my adhikar is to serve you, my Guru Maharaj, or to serve the devotees. So he modifies from serving the Lord to serving the devotees, specifically referring to the service of Maitreya Rishi as his Guru, which is sign of his humility, but also a very practical instruction for us. That when we are executing sadhana vaidhi bhakti, then our connection with Krishna is very, very weak. So the impetus to follow the rules and regulations, to make advancements, to fight against your own contamination, all that actually comes by serving the devotees and specifically serving your spiritual master. So this is a practical instruction that Vidur is giving while acknowledging his understanding of what Maitreya had told him. Verse 19. Yat sevya bhagwataha kutastya madhudvishaha ratiraso bhavetivra padayor vyasanardhanaha. By serving the feet of the spiritual master, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material distresses. So in the previous verse, Vidur had said that he understands intellectually that there is no actual misfortune for the soul, arthabhavam. And intellectually, he has given up the idea. But from a practical perspective, he needs help to give up this false idea. And the process he's restating what he said in the last verse is to serve so here he specifically says that serving the lotus feet of the spiritual master. So he's extracting the essence of devotional service mentioned in verses 12 to 14. So yat sevaya bhagavata, that those who serve Bhagavata, and he interprets Bhagavata as those who are devotees of Krishna or those who are representatives of Krishna, which is Guru. And then what is the goal? So the point he wants to make is that one should not look upon it as a means to an end. So one should not think that today I will serve my Guru, and tomorrow when I become advanced, then I will stand on the shoulder of my Guru and serve the deity. Like Prabhupada would say this is the mentality of the prostitute. That till the customer is paying, the prostitute is with him and then discards. So the conception of Mayavadis is that until I understand I am Narayan, I will serve my Guru. And when I am Narayan, then to hell with the Guru. So Vidur is saying that this is not a means to an end. Because what is the result of serving the spiritual master? He says that Rati Bhava Bhakti, that one gets bhakti that is composed of all the bhavs like Vibhav and Anubhav and Sthai Bhav and Satvik Bhav and Vibhachari Bhav. That is Rasaha, that is infused with all the mellows, the 5 primary and the secondary rasas. So then one may say, okay, maybe if you serve your Guru, it will take a while. Maybe it's faster if you serve Krishna. And then he says, Bhavet Tivraha, that it will happen very quickly. So Maitreya Rishi was talking about sadhana bhakti as a gradual process. He said, Shanaha, gradually, you will progress, which is right. Vidur is saying is that Shanaya becomes Tivra when the service to Krishna is directed through his representative. And specifically Vidur is glorifying Maitreya Rishi, because Maitreya Rishi has the position of the Guru. So Vidur is saying, I don't know Krishna. Of course he knows, but he's making the philosophical point that I'm in that spectrum of people who don't know, but I know that I don't know. So what do I know? I know that my Guru is standing in front of me. I know there are devotees around me. So by serving them, then I can very quickly achieve the highest perfection of bhakti. And he confirms the object of bhakti. What will I get? He said Kutastya. So Kutastya, Kutastasya means one who does not change. So Vidur specifically uses this term because he had asked about the 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 impact of all the changes that are happening. The fact that the universe is changing, the world, material world is coming and going, the jiva is experiencing happiness and distress. And but with all amongst all these changes, if the jiva serves the spiritual master and the devotees, then he will get access to that which does not change. And Kutastya is refers to, can refer to bhakti, because bhakti is one that only grows but does not change in composition. And when Kutastya is applied to Madhudvisha, so he calls Krishna as Madhudvisha, the enemy of the Madhu demon, then this is the Lord who is unwavering in his support to his devotees, vanquishing all doubts which are like demons, and quickly avoiding Tivra, quickly avoiding the so Tivra also means ecstatic sentiments. So quickly apply, giving the ecstatic sentiments. So by a potent combination of the mercy of his pure devotee and Krishna himself, Vidur says that a surrendered devotee can quickly progress to the highest platforms of transcendence. Okay, we'll do one more verse, then we can stop for any discussion. Durapahayal patapsaha seva vaikunthavartmashu yatropagiyate nityam Devadeva Janardhanaha. Persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. Pure devotees engaged 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all living entities. So based on Vidur's statement made in the previous verse, it seems like the problem is now solved. That those who aspire to make advancements, they engage in the service of the devotees, and tivra, quickly they will reach their goal. So Vidur says that while the solution is there, the opportunity to get the service of the devotees is very rare. So he describes the devotees as Vaikuntha Vartamashu, that they're on the path to Vaikuntha. And how are they on the path? Upa Gayate Nityam. So Gayate means singing, and Upa means they keep that close to them. Nityam is constantly. So they're constantly glorifying the Lord, which they value in either sadhana bhakti or prema bhakti. The activities are similar. So then one may say, why is the service difficult? If the devotees are so rare, then isn't that a matter of chance then? That if I happen to live close to such a devotee, or I happen to through happenstance come. So Vidur is saying not really. He says alpa tapasa. That it's not that the devotees are rare, but the opportunity to take the service of the devotees is rare because of alpa tapasa, because of Alpa means very small. Tapas means austerities. So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that you can use this term conventionally, that they're not purified by austerity. But factually speaking, austerity is not a prerequisite for bhakti. So Prabhupada in the purport says that even if one has no assets of favorable austerity, if he nevertheless takes shelters of the Mahatmas who are engaged in chanting, the hearing, the glories of the Lord, he's sure to make progress on the path home back to Godhead. So one can understand that Alpa Tapasya refer to austerities related to bhakti. So because bhakti attracts bhaktas, those who are meager in bhakti, which means that they're not interested in it, then they don't attract the mercy of the advanced devotees. So even though they may be crossing paths with them, it is as good as not meeting them, because they have no interest. Because they have no interest, the devotees, the advanced devotees don't reciprocate. So they cross paths, but nothing really changes. So in the previous verse, Vidur had described Krishna as Vyasan Ardhana. So Ardhana means one who destroys, and Vyasan is distress. So Vyasan Ardhan is one who destroys distress. In this verse, he refers to Krishna as Janardhana. So Ardhan actually means both protector and destroyer. So when it is Ardhan with a short A, it's a destroyer. And when it is a long A, it means that one is a protector. So Janardhan with a long A means Krishna is protecting everybody, devotees and non-devotees. But only for his devotees, he is not only Janardhan, protector, he is also Janardhan, destroyer. So he protects their bhakti and he destroys their distress. So the Janardhan here relates to the Vyasanardhan in the previous. So this Janardhan has the same meaning as Vyasanardhan, that he is the destroyer of the distress. And he is also their protector of bhakti. And as Krishna, he is Janardhan. He is protecting, by his mercy, even the demons are breathing and getting their power. So that way he is protecting everyone. Okay. Let me pause here, see if we have any comments or discussion.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have two questions. This is to earlier text number 19. As we progress within our sadhana or devotion service, no, we do interact with both. I don't know how to even differentiate devotee, non-devotee, right? Devotee who keeps Krishna in the center, non-devotee, a material thing in the center. But even though it's very hard to differentiate, but knowingly or unknowingly, we do commit some kind of an offenses. I'm talking specifically to the non-devotees, either with the pride or envy or something, right? How the question is how to reflect on those kind of offenses, what we do. That is a question. The second question I have is, we are sadhakas right now, right? At whatever stage we are, but this is regarding our just concluded verse. we tend to say yes for everything as a devotee. Very rarely we take that kind of a stand to say no, right? So in saying no, thinking that there will be several variations, like why we have to, it may impact me, or I may offend someone, or so whatever might be the reason, right? So maybe these both are interrelated questions, but I would like to have your reflection on this.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu. So offenses to, or so-called offenses to non-devotees, they come in the category of what Narad Muni says to the snake, that you can show your fangs but don't bite. Because living in the material world, there has to be some level of protection from exploitation. Now, unprovoked offenses like condemning them or considering them to be going to hell, they're just signs of immaturity, and that's something we can very easily talk ourselves out of it. That uh, our Guru Maharaj will not be pleased, Krishna will not be pleased, because we are doing the opposite of what they would like us to do. That Prabhupada would say that if you leave another person with a good impression of a devotee, that is preaching. You don't have to speak. Just if they think favorably about you, their devotional service has begun. And conversely, that by your actions, if you make them think unfavorably, then of course they are committing offenses without knowing it, and uh, you're putting your devotional life at risk, because you're turning away a soul that could have taken to Krishna. Second part of your question is interesting. That sometimes we are scared of saying no to devotees because we are scared of committing offenses. It's a challenge. I mean, I wish I had the answer for you, but I think all of us face that we don't want to offend devotees, and devotees are generally caring and compassionate, but um, I remember when I was in Coimbatore, I met a Mataji, and she was from Vrindavan, and very much into Go Seva, into serving cows. And um, so I gave her my WhatsApp contact, and for a very long time she kept sending me pictures of cows. Every day she would send me pictures of, not every day, sometimes more than once a day, she would send me pictures of cows. That was her, she was passionate about it. She was rescuing cows, and she was, taking care of them. I mean, fortunately, after some time, she kind of got distracted. So she stopped sending. She still sends. I think once in a while she'll still send. So yeah, it's I mean, there are many theoretical answers that can fit there. That you know, it's better to say no than to say yes and mean no, or it's better to pace yourself. That if you say yes to everybody, you might get burnt out. So later on, you'll have to say no to everybody. We know all of this, which is why I'm not even saying. We know all of that. um, Earlier on, when when we had started practicing, we were very enthusiastic, and then Guru Maharaj had established this as an inviolate rule for us, that don't take any service without getting it cleared by me. So we used to go to the temple, and devotees are always eager to engage you. And then we would say that, we'd be more than happy to help you. We'll clear with our Guru Maharaj. They would be okay with it. So that's, that's one practical way of doing it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay. So no more questions. We can go to verse 21. So from here till the end of the chapter, their verses don't have purports. They are just one question after another. So we'll go over it. We'll go over it fairly quickly. I hope to finish this chapter today, because they're mostly questions. And Prem Kishore Prabhu has already sent you the table of all the questions that are asked by Vidur, with the references to the answers. So that should help also. Verse 21. Shrishtvagre mahadadini savikaranyanu tebhyo virajamudritya tamanu pravishad vibhuhu. After creating the total material energy, the Mahatattva, and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal form with senses and sense organs, the Supreme Lord entered within it. So the three questions that Vidur asked, Maitreya responded, Vidur confirmed the answers. That's done. Now Vidur is picking up from the earlier description of the creation of the Mahatattva. So now he wants to ask more questions with respect to the process of creation. Verse 22. Yamahuradhyam purusham sahasrangriurubahukam yatra vishva ime lokaha savikasham taasate. The Purush incarnation lying on the causal ocean is called the original Purush in the material creations, and in his Virat form, in whom all the planets and the inhabitants live, he has many thousands of legs and hands. So again, Vidur is summarizing what has already been explained by Maitreya. Prabhupada says that the first Purush is Karnadakshay, Vishnu, second is Garbhodakshay, and the third is Shudakshay, in whom is contemplated the Virat Purush, the gigantic form in which all the planets and the different developments and inhabitants are floating. Next verse. Yasmin das vidaha prana sendriyarthendriya vrita toyetu yato varnas tad vibhutir vadasvanaha. O great Brahman, you have told me that the gigantic Virat form and his senses, sense object, and 10 kinds of life air exist with 3 kinds of life vigor. Now, if you will kindly explain to me the different powers of the specific divisions. So having established the context, now he is beginning to ask the questions. So kindly explain to me the different powers of the specific divisions. So Maitreya had previously described the Virat Roop as having the 10 prans and the sense object and the senses. So that was the elaborate description of the Virat Roop. And he talks about the Trivrata. So the Trivrata are the 3 kinds of strengths. So 3 kinds of strengths is Saha, which is strength of the mind, Oja, which is the strength of the senses, and Bal, which is the strength of the bodies. And then from the form, Varnas like Brahmanas arose, and Vibhuti refers to the Prajapatis. So all this has been explained, and Vidur is quickly summarizing it. Yatra putrescha pautrascha naptrabi saha gotrajaha praja vichitra kratya, which the jivas, based on the desires, they pick. I need a ear like this. I desire an eye like this. I desire a skin like this. And in this way, different forms of species are created. And the Prajapatis mentioned in the previous verse, they procreate to create sons and grandsons and family members. Verse 25. Prajapatinam sapatish chakalpekan prajapatin sargamscha vanusargamscha manun manvantaradipan. O learned Brahman, please describe how the leader of all the demigods, namely the Prajapati Brahma, decided to establish the various manus, the heads of the sages, the heads of the ages, sorry. Please describe the manus also, and describe the descendants of those manus. So these questions that are asked are very similar to the questions that were asked by Maharaj Parikshit in the second canto, 8th chapter. And essentially, what we see is that Sukadev Goswami, so they are nested conversations. So the question that Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadev Goswami, they're still pending. And Sukadev Goswami, in order to answer that question, is quoting a conversation between Vidur and Maitreya, where Vidur is asking the same questions to Maitreya, and the answers will be the answers that Parikshit Maharaj is looking for. So he asked for sargams chaiva anusargamas cha. And the sarga over here does not refer to the sarga that is done by Krishna, because sarga and anusarga also means primary creation and subsequent creation. So he has already talked about the creation of the Virat Purush. He has already talked about now he's talking about the activities of Brahma. So everything that Brahma does is in Visarga. So the Sarga over here is a contextual. That what is creation that is done by Brahma, and what is subsequent creation that is done by the demigods and by Manus. Okay, verse 26. Uparyadhascha ye loka bhumer mitratmajasate tesham samstitham parmanam cha Urlokasya cha varnaya. O son of Mitra, kindly describe how the planets are situated above the earth as well as underneath it. And also please mention their measurements as well as that of the earthly planets. So one may ask, as a devotee, why is Vidur interested in these astronomical questions? So these are questions related to astronomy. That what is the distance of one planet from another? What is the size of the planet? And Prabhupada says that Yasmin Vidyate Sarvam Eva Vigyatam Bhavati. This is Mundak Upanishad, which says that the devotees of the Lord know everything material and spiritual in relationship with the Lord. Prabhupada said devotees are not simply emotional, as is ill-conceived by certain less intelligent men. The direction is practical. They know everything. And that is in all the detail of the Lord's domination over the material creation. So the reason Vidur is asking this is because it is related to Krishna. The Krishna created this universe. And the only reason that he's interested in it is to appreciate the expanse of the universe created by Krishna. So Vidur Vidur addresses Maitreya as Mitrama Jasate. So Mitramja means son of Mitra. And this is at least it's a point of confusion for me, because previously Maitreya was described as the son of Kusharav. So if you look at 3rd canto, 5th chapter, 15th verse, then he's addressed as Kusharva, the son of sage Kusharu. And at other places, we see mostly is addressed as if not Maitreya, he's addressed as Kusharu. But at least more than 2 places, he's addressed as Mitra Sutta or Mitramja. So either Mitra and Kusharu are the same persons, but Kusharu is described as a sage, and Mitra, of course, we know is famous. He is the son of Aditi, and he's a close associate of his brother Varun. They are inseparable. They are always together. And then we know there is the pastime in which Mitra and Varun, they were attracted by the Apsara Gratachki, and then they co-fathered sage Vashishta and Agastya Rishi. So Mitra is famous for there, but it's never mentioned that he had a. So Vashishta and Agastya are considered to be the sons of Mitra Rishi. He has some other sons, but Maitreya Muni is never considered to be described as a son, even though the name seems that it is derived Mitra and Maitreya. So if anybody has any more understanding or knowledge about it, I would appreciate clarification. Okay, verse 27. Tiryan manush devanam sarishrapa patitrinam vadnaha sarga samyuham garbhasved dibojvidam. Also, please describe the living entities under different classifications. Subhumans, humans, those born of the embryo, those born of perspiration, and those who are twice born birds. And the plants and vegetables. Kindly describe the generations and subdivisions also. So the birds are called Dvija because they take 2 births, one as an egg and the second from the egg. The Garbha is those who are born from a womb, like humans. And the Sveda are those who are born from perspiration, like worms or stinging insects. And Udbidam is plants and shrubs that germinate. So Vidur is asking details about all this, essentially the plant and animal kingdom. Verse 28. Gunavatarer Vishwasya Sargastitya Apayashrayam Shrajata Srinivasasya Vyachakudra Vikarmamam. Please also describe the incarnation of the material modes of nature, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And please describe the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his magnanimous activities. And Prabhupada describes that how Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar, they're incarnation of the material modes of nature and the principal deities of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And the fact that they rest on Krishna, he's the Ashraya. Verse 29. Varnashram vighamascha rupashila swabhavataha rishinam janma karmani vedasya cha vikarshanam. O great sage, kindly describe the divisions and orders of the human society in terms of symptoms, behavior, and the characteristics of mental equilibrium and sense control. Also, please describe the births of the great sages and the categorical division of the Vedas. So, Rupashila Swabhavata refers to the form, conduct, and qualities, like sense and mind control, that is attributed to different varnas. Verse 30. Yagyasya cha vitanani yogasya cha partha yogasya cha patah prabhu naishkarmasya cha sankhasya tantram cha bhagavat smritam. These also describe the expansions of different sacrifices and the paths of mystic powers, analytical study of knowledge, and devotional service, all with their respective regulations. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that the word tantram is significant over here. Sometimes tantram is misunderstood to be black spiritual science of materialistic people engaged in sense gratification. So they say that tantric, that this person is a tantric, or mantra tantra. Mantra is for the mind and tantra is for ghosts and hobgoblins. So tantra actually means just means an exposition and an explanation. So here tantram means the science of devotional service compiled by Narad Muni. So this is specifically the Naraj Panchatantra. Prabhupada says that one can take advantage of such regulative explanations of the path of devotional service and make progressive advancement in the devotional service of the Lord. Sankhya philosophy is the basic principle of acquiring knowledge, as will be explained by the sage Maitreya. The Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Kapila Dev, the son of Devavati, is the real source of knowledge about the supreme truth. Knowledge not based on Sankhya philosophy is mental speculation and can yield no tangible benefit. Next verse. Pashandapatha Vaishamyam Pratilom Niveshanam Jivasya Gatayo Yascha Yavati Guna Karmaja. Please also describe the imperfections and contradictions of the faithless atheists, the situation of crossbreeding, and the movements of the living entities in various species of life according to the particular modes of nature and work. So Prabhupada says the combination of living entities in different modes of material nature is called crossbreeding. So this is essentially when men and women from different varnas, they marry. So here he is actually talking about pratilom. So pratilom refers to when the mother is of a higher caste than the father. So when when the mother is a Brahman and the father is a Kshatriya. So these are called pratilom. The opposite is not when the father is of a higher caste, that is not considered to be crossbreeding. And Pashandapad refers to the Pashandis. So these are the impersonalists and the materialists. Verse 32. Dharmartha kama mokshana nimitanya virodata varataya dandanitescha shrutasya cha vidhim prathak. You may also describe the non-contradictory causes of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation, and also the means of livelihood and different processes of law and order as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. So this is essentially the Chatur Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Verse 33. Shraddhasya cha vidhim brahman pitranam sargameva cha graha nakshatra taranam kalavyan samsthitam. Please also explain the regulations of offering respects to the forefathers, the creation of the Pitralok, the time schedule in the planets, stars, and luminaries, and their respective situations. Next verse. Dhanasya tapasvapi yacheshta purtaya phalam parvashtasya chod yodharmo yaschapum shautapadi. Please also describe the fruitive results of charity and penance and of digging reservoirs of water. Please describe the situation of persons who are away from home and also the duty of a man in an awkward position. So, awkward position is when the person is forced to act against the stipulations of dharma. So, Vidur wants to know more about that. Yena va bhagavam stushye dharma yonir janardhana samprasidati va yesham etadakhya hime naga. O sinless one, because the personality of Godhead, the controller of all living entities, is the father of all religion and all those who are candidates for religious activities, kindly describe how he can be completely satisfied. So Srila Prabhupada explains about the four kinds of men who take to bhakti. And this is quoting Bhagavad Gita 7:16, and those who do not take 7:15. And in between them, there are those who take and do not take, who are kind of fluctuating. So in 3.5.10, Vidur had stated that I have repeatedly heard about the higher and lower statuses of human society from the mouth of Vyasadeva. And I'm quite satisfied with all these lesser subject matters and their happiness. They have not satisfied me with the nectar of the topics of Krishna. So then he was saying that he's not really interested in the higher lower status, mean higher and lower varnas. So he had said that he's not very interested, but now he's still asking from Maitreya, partially for our benefit, and also because this knowledge will help him become detached. So while it does not enthuse him, but he sees the value of it in him developing material detachment. So the word va over here means but. So he's saying that but Janardhan, who bestows material things to his Sakam Bhaktas, is the cause of all dharmas. So he wants to know about the unifying aspects of the various dharmas. Now, dharma over here because there was only one dharma. So here it talks about the different philosophies within the dharma. It does not really refer to Christianity or different religions, but to different philosophies within the same broad category of those who are following some kind of duty. Verse 36. Anuvratanam shishyanam putranam chadvijottama anaprashtam api briyor guruvodina vatsalaha. O best among the Brahmins, those who are spiritual masters are very kind to the needy. They are always kind to their followers, disciples, and sons, and without being asked by them, the spiritual master describes all that is knowledge. So he's asking all these questions, and he's also glorifying Maitreya, and he's encouraging Maitreya So he's saying that I'm asking all these questions, but I don't know all the questions that I should ask. So, as a guru, as a as a as the Dvija Uttama, as the best of the Brahmins, also answer those questions that I have not asked, but that you think are relevant. So, Vidur is asking the questions to set a framework, but Maitreya is not going to answer the questions in a question answer format. He's going to be answering the questions topically. So he will speak about a particular pastime, and that particular pastime will cover 3 or 4 questions. In the 4th canto, he will talk about the genealogy of Swayambhavu Manu, and that will answer the question of Vidur, that tell me more about the Manus and the genealogy. But while he's talking about the genealogy, he will also talk about Dhruv Maharaj. And then in doing that, he will answer questions about how to practice bhakti for those who are in the mood, in a particular mode of material nature. So Vidur recognizes the fact. So what he's requesting is that please also use this opportunity to enlighten me about everything that you think is relevant. Prabhupada says Vidur appealed to Maitreya Muni to speak on subjects about which he may not have asked. Next verse. Tatvanam bhagvam stesham kathida pratisankramaha tatrimam kaupashiran kayusvid anusherate. Please describe how many dissolutions are there, how many dissolutions there are for the elements of material nature, and who survives after the dissolution to serve the Lord while he is asleep. So the acharyas say that the reason he's asking this question is to understand the nature of bhakti. So Vidur had previously asked for and explained to Maitreya his understanding of sadhana bhakti, which is done with the material senses using material objects. So he is saying that if I perform bhakti using matter, and then matter gets destroyed at the time of dissolution, what happens to my bhakti? Because it is so much predicated on matter, with my material body, with my material senses, with the material objects, and matter gets dissolved. So what will happen to my bhakti? So he's saying that who serves the Lord while he's asleep? Because when Lord Vishnu goes to sleep, the matter, everything that is matter is destroyed. So who serves the Lord when he's asleep is a question, which means that do there any devotees who survive the material destruction? Because only devotees will serve the Lord. And when the Lord is asleep, matter is destroyed. So do the devotees survive the destruction of matter? And more so, does devotion survive the destruction of matter when it is in a preliminary stage? And Maitreya will, of course, answer this. Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Swami. I'm sorry, 3 acharyas. They comment on this: Vishwanath Chakravarti, Jiva Goswami, and Sridhar Swami. And they say that the devotees of the Lord never annihilate the individual existences, not even after the dissolution of the entire cosmic manifestation. The Lord and the devotees who associate with him are always eternal in both the material and spiritual worlds. So even devotion that is in a preliminary stage will survive. And again, this is a point that has been made to us many times by Prabhupada. Verse 38. Purushasya cha samsthana Swarupan va parasya cha jnanam cha negamam yatta guru shishya prayojanam. What are the truths regarding the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What are their identities? What are the specific values in the knowledge in the Vedas, and what are the necessities for the spiritual master and the disciples? So he's asking for Purushasya, the position of the Jiva, and Parasya, which is the Swarup of the similar Lord. So why is it that one has to worship and the other becomes the object of worship? And what is the knowledge that I need to get from a guru? So what makes a person a guru? What makes a person a disciple? And how should a disciple relate with the guru? The Prabhupada says essentially what he is asking is, how can I learn bhakti from you? So that is the essence of the question that is being asked. Next verse, 39. Nimittani chatasyeha proktanyanagushuribihi svato jnanam kutah pumsham bhakti vairagayam eva. Spotless devotees of the Lord have mentioned the source of such knowledge. How could one have knowledge of devotional service and detachment without help of such devotees? So he says that Nimittani, that the cause of this knowledge is the association of devotees. So he is describing this cause which is told by the Surubis. The Surubis are the offenseless, knowledgeable devotees. So the question is to some extent rhetorical, because the point that he wants Maitreya to make is that without Guru, knowledge of Krishna is impossible. But he's asking this question so that Maitreya gets an opportunity to clarify. Prabhupada says that Shuris are great scholars, but they may not always be anaga or spotless. So which is why Vidur is further qualifying them as anagasuris. So anagasuris are great scholars who are spotless, which Prabhupada says refers to the pure devotees of the Lord. And those who are not pure devotees or who want to be equal, they are not anaga suris. So pure devotees have prepared many books of knowledge on the basis of authorized scriptures. Srila Rupa Goswami and his assistants, under the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, have all written various literatures for the guidance of prospective devotees. And anyone who is very serious about raising himself to the standard of a pure devotee of the Lord must take advantage of these literatures. So Prabhupada is talking about the importance of the Suris, which are knowledgeable, and anagas, devotees. That one should not emotionally engage in bhakti. One should get a strong foundation through conviction by the study of the scriptures. Okay, next verse. Etan me prachatah prashna hare karma vivittasya bruhi me agyasya mitravad bruhi me agyasya mitratvad ajaya nashtu chakshusha. My dear sage, I have put all these questions before you with a view to knowing the pastimes of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the friend of all. So kindly describe them for all those who have lost their vision. So Maitreya may ask that, why are you asking me so many questions? And Vidur clarifies, then when all these questions are answered, I will have complete concentration of the Lord's service with indifference to everything else, and then I can attain Him. So these questions are not idle curiosity. Some of the questions have been asked so that he can develop material detachment. Some of them have been asked so that he can develop attraction to Krishna. And, and by the effect of these two, he says that people like him, Ajaya Nashta Chakshusha. So Ajaya is that those who have been conquered by the external energy, and Nashta Chakshusha means that they have lost their vision. So by the mercy of Maitreya, Vidur himself and those like him can be situated in the service of the Lord. So in this connection, there's a short I can share with you about. So Maitreya has been asked a whole series of questions, and our whole process of spiritual advancements is based on questions. So we can all trace our beginnings in Krishna consciousness to questions. That very few of them, or maybe none of us, are so fortunate that we just took to the process and we were completely satisfied. And actually, when we stop asking questions, then we should be worried that why aren't we asking questions? So one should ask great questions. And the G stands for genuine. The questions should be genuine with a desire to get an answer. The motivation should be genuine. It should not be to show one's knowledge or to show down the knowledge of others, but a genuine desire to get the answer. Questions should be relevant. So relevant to the topic. So we see that how Vidur, he builds relevance by establishing the context in which the conversation with Maitreya was going on. He said, you have described to me the Virat Roop, you have described to me material creation, you have described to me bhakti. So when you describe the material world, explain to me a little bit more about the planets. When you describe how the various varnas come from the Virat Purush, tell me a little bit more about the varnas. So relevant questions are important. Third is very important, which is efficient. That the question should be to the point. Sometimes in the temple, I've noticed that in the Sunday open house, the speaker speaks and then he says, any question? And then a person stands up and then he says, I have a question. And he essentially gives a mini class. The person will simply say, I feel, I think, I believe, and everybody else is patiently waiting. And then sometimes there's no question. There's just a person to grandstand. So efficient means that to the point, the ability to explain. Also, not so terse that the speaker does not understand. So to the point, but clear. The E is for affection. That the motivation of the question should be affection. And this is specifically to the speaker. More generally to the subject, but specifically to the speaker. So where there is affection, there cannot be any malice. So the question should not be to show down the speaker. But let me ask something that perhaps you cannot answer, or let me ask you something that will confuse you. But it should be with strong affection. And the T is for trust. That a person should only ask questions when he's in a position to trust the answers. Should not ask questions just for the even in the absence of trust. There's no point in these questions. And the mood of essentially of the questioner is that he should be aware of two things: Maryada Vyatikaran and Arsha Prayog. So Maryada Vyatikaram we had discussed, that not importantly surpassing the greater personality. Now, it's not necessary that the speaker is a greater personality, but because the mood is that of question and answer, the speaker is given this position, at least momentarily. And the second is Arsha Prayog, which Prabhupada explains that when great personality makes mistakes, then they should not be condemned. So Prabhupada would, when he would speak, he would sometimes forget a verse, or he would say the first line of the verse and then turn to a student, and the student would then complete the verse. It does not reflect any lacking. It's just Arsha Prayog and the characteristics of a great person. And the answers that should be given by the speaker should be best answers. So the B is for benefit, that it should be keeping the ultimate benefit of the inquirer. So sometimes we see that the person asks a question and the spiritual master or the senior devotee may answer in a different context. Prabhupada would do that often. People would ask for a very esoteric question and Prabhupada would say, chant Hare Krishna, because he would understand that the person is not qualified to receive the answer. But he would give an answer that would benefit the person. So it should be for the benefit. E is for experience. So it should be based on yathagati. It should be based on the personal experience of the person. S should be study, that the person should have studied and understood, yathamati. And T is taught, that the person should speak what has been taught to him, yatha shrutam. So it's a brief detour, but in this context, I think this discussion was relevant. So we have two more verses. Let me complete that. Sarve Vedascha Yagyascha Tapodana Nichanaga Jivabhya Pradhanasya Nakur Viran Kalamapi. O spotless one, your answers to all these questions will grant immunity from all material miseries. Such charity is greater than all the Vedic charities, sacrifices, penances, etc. So, Vidur, he is at this point, he's actually summarizing the answers. He's saying that your answers will be the best answers. And he's at this time focusing on the B part, that it will be for the benefit of everybody, not just me, but for those who will come later and listen to this conversation. Verse 42. Shri Sukhavacha Saitaham different meter. Saitaham aprashato puran kalpaha Kuru pradhane namuni pradhana pravradharsho bhagavat kathayam sanchodidastam prahasanivaha. Sukadeva Goswami said, thus the chief of the sages, who was always enthusiastic about describing topics regarding the personality of Godhead, began to narrate the descriptive explanation of the Puranas. Being so infused by Vidur, he was very much enlivened by speaking on the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada writes that great learned sages like Maitreya Muni are always very enthusiastic about describing the transcendental activities of the Lord. Maitreya Muni, being thus invited by Vidur to speak, appeared to be smiling because he actually felt transcendental bliss. So what Maitreya will begin to speak in the next chapter is Bhagavatam. So he will actually introduce the disciplic succession by which he received the Bhagavatam and then began to speak the Bhagavatam. So this is the end of the 7th chapter, and I'll pause over here and see if you have any um, comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Praji, I was looking at the table, which was very helpful. So thank you for that. Like there is one column that is the last one, right? The answered in column in the table. So basically that gives like, say for example, like for verse 25, it says 3.21 to 24 and then 4.1 to 5. So is that from the same canto, or is that because I couldn't really
It's
understand
from
like
the,
what canto
it's
is.
from the, so wherever the canto changes, the canto would be given. So just to give credit where credit is due, these tables are not compiled by me. They are from Bhagwat's Subodhini. So the MIHE, no, this is the, that eco village that is set up mm,
Golden Village.
right next to your hometown, actually.
Yeah.
The devotees over there, they have compiled a more tabular study of the Bhagavatam. So this table is from there, and the way they have done is that it's if they give 3 numbers, then it's the canto chapter verse. If they give 2 numbers, then we can understand that it's the canto and the chapter. So like
You mean the same canto and different chapter, like, and the chapter.
exactly. So like if you look at line number 8, so they've given 2 numbers. So it's basically chapter 30 to 32.
Of
And
the same canto.
of the um, 3rd canto. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So, and then I have a actually question before Vidura starts asking the questions, right? So, actually, when you moved, I was still forming this question in my head, but like verses 18, 19, 20. So, uh, like, the like 18 and like, I understand, but like, help me understand 20, where I mean, 18, 19 is basically, um, like, Vidura is saying that serving the serving a spiritual master, or serving, like he's talking to Maitreya, right? So he's serving you, I will understand, like, I'll give up the false idea. And then 19 is he's saying that, by serving the spiritual master, one is enabled to develop, like, ecstasy and things like that.
Very quickly one is able to develop bhakti.
Right. And then 20, there's like, about that meager, like, whose austerity is meager. So that part I didn't really understand. Like, I mean, whose austerity is meager cannot, I mean, at least in the verse, I know that, I mean, it says that they can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees. But
Mm.
then from what I heard you say was that they can still get the mercy if they are in the association and if they are chanting. Is that correct?
They so this verse is spoken uh, as a way to address the fact that so the first 2 verses that you pointed out, Vidur spoke them to glorify the association of devotees as a quick and easy way. He says Tivragati, quickly that one can give all the way till Bhava Bhakti. So the implicit question is that why isn't everybody quickly going to Bhava Bhakti? And then the point he makes is that because they don't serve. So we looked at 2 options. One is that because the association of such devotees is very rare, and that was not fully accepted. What is more accepted is that even when they are offered the opportunity to associate with such devotees, people who are meager in austerity do not take that opportunity. That is why they are not able to make advancements. And what does meager austerity mean? So austerity in this context is one whose bhakti is kshina. So the desire to execute devotional service, or their proclivity to associate with those who are in that mood, that is very, very weak. So even though the devotees are magnanimous and they may be present and they are available to give their mercy, the reason that very few people take it is because they are not interested in it.
Okay, got it. So they will just that their progress will not be as quick.
Their progress, or they might make no progress. So the question is that once one takes an association of a devotee, then the progress happens very quickly. But there are many people who choose not to take that association. So they will not have that opportunity to make progress. That's the point that's being made.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Sure. Okay, so if there are no more questions, so next chapter again goes into the technical aspects of creation again. So we had a bit of a break. Maitreya gave us a break, and now he's going to be speaking more about the more technical aspects of creation. So we'll stop over here. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Nithai Gaur Premanand. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.